Alright, in a very short, less than 1 minute video, I now have the MSD boxes mounted. I did those with riv nuts, so you can actually put them on and off. Boosters in. We've got the light harness done. Working on the main engine harness. Need to build the wiper harness, but the wiper motor's got to go in, and it's disgusting. ShopDog says, don't even touch that thing. It's gross. So that's all coming along. And then there was an existing hole, so we grommeted that, depinned and extended the controller, and now it's hidden in here, and it's plenty long. You can reach anywhere in the car with the handheld, so that's kind of nice. Gets it out of the way, but you can still use it. So yeah, we're getting there. Welcome to a Bent69 video that nobody expected. So car's sitting out. He's doing a little sanding on that Bondo. Bartley's doing a little bit of cleanup in here. Gotta do things. At least it's a lovely day. It's not too hot, not too cold. The wind is pretty light, but gotta have it.
Beautiful day for a cleanup.
And we got to use the hoist again, so that's worked twice now.
Yeah, magic.
Well, there you go. They're back there covering the interior that I've just done. And he's sanding. The second skim coat's coming off. There we go. Not quite as dented as it was. Well, that's the problem when you park at a brewery is, you know, some people might be a little less cautious.
That is a fact.
All right. So, he's got a primer on there to protect it. Starting to look like something. Poor old ShopDog's a little bored. Just in here working on wiring. So, that's as clean as that wiper motor's getting. If it's got to get cleaner, he's going to replace it, since I guess the pump doesn't work and a couple other little issues. So if it comes down to it, that's an easy replacement later. Just getting ready to crawl in and build the wiper harness, which is just so much easier to do in the car. You know, I can get everything lined up where I want. Traditionally, F-bodies have a wiring gutter across here, you know, that goes across. And of course this car didn't come with one, and I didn't think to order one, but with the MSD stuff it wouldn't work out anyway. So we will do something. We will get all this wire over to the other side where I want it. It'll work out pretty nice. But you can see we're starting to run out of wires to connect. You know, I still got to do something about the reverse lights. These are the that's the trigger wire for the fuse pump, or for the fuel pump relay. This is the ignition feed for the two MSD boxes to switch them on. This, of course, is the hood switch, you know, right here. So I haven't run that yet. This is for the siren. So, and then that'll be a connector back up over the fender. You know, don't want to make that too easy. So we're going to bury that siren, and we'll have that connector up out of the way. Let's see, what else? The MSD harness, I will finish cleaning up as we get around to battery type stuff. You'll see I've got a battery tray installed, some new hardware there. Yeah, it's kind of getting into the home stretch now. This is the part where things start to happen pretty fast. Like I always say in these things, it never looks like much has happened, and yet 3 hours has passed. ShopDog's napping, and we're really starting to get this all mapped out. I inserted a couple riv nuts, and I've just got them open right now. Some of this wiring I can't really finalize until the sensors are in and the engine is in. So this is about as far as all of this can go. The wiring harness for the wiper is up. I've got everything kind of coming across, including, you know, you can see the orange wire hanging there for the blower motor. We've got, I think I already showed you that that was in. The siren is now in and wired. The roll control now has And unfortunately, it's not where I wanted the connector, but that's how long these wires were. That's where they cut them. So that's what I had to work with. But we'll make that look attractive. And then I'm sure you've noticed that I'm starting to tape all the grounds so that I don't forget to hook any of them up. So all of these grounds still need to be made. Not too worried about those yet. Just kind of getting there. I've got the reverse wires run down with the cutout wires and the VSS cabling. So all of this will have to happen once the tranny's in and stuff's up and out of the way. I just gotta work out where all that wiring is going to be, because the exhaust is a real problem. It always is. Main power feed, starter feed, the field wire for the alternator, even though his alternator doesn't need it. And then the power harness for the Atomic is sitting up here because I've got to go through it. It's got the feed for the O2 sensor, its main power feed, and its main ground. The switched ignition, which if you recall is that tan wire right there that it's just hanging out. This big orange wire that's shoved down here will wind up going to that blue wire right there. That triggers the fuel pump. The MSD intended to be the fuel pump driver, but I'm just using their fuel pump output to drive my relay. So the other thing I've got is there's that orange wire, and then fan 1, fan 2. I haven't decided where I'm running those yet. They're probably going to come over by the battery and become a connector. And then from there, I think in the interest of keeping this project moving, at this point, we're going to modify his existing fan setup with an eye towards doing something a little nicer, dual fan setup in the future. We're just, starting to get nice out. Been replacing an awful lot of stuff, so that's an easy enough project downstream. We can take care of that literally on a weekend. So we're just going to reuse that right now. I thought I had enough up there to build one. The fans I have on hand right now draw 26 amps each because they're the ones we call the jet engine, and that's not appropriate for this car. So we'll do that as another project someday. Getting really close to ready to swing the motor, but I think I'm at the point where I want to get the brakes in. I think that's my next project, is getting the master cleaned out, new fluid in it, get it bled, and get that back up here while I can sit down and do any work, check for leaks, get it pre-bled. We can final bleed it later, but I like to get it at least so I have brake. And then one of the other things I want to test is that check valve, because one thing that was weird is no matter what happened, you would have to, or as soon as you turn the key on, I don't remember where his little pump is, wherever it is, that came on every time, which is weird. It should have only come on if there was no vacuum. Well, that should have held vacuum. So we will find out if that check valve is any good. Outside of that, I think this is quite a bit of progress for today. Like I said, I didn't have a wiring gutter to work with, so I'm improvising. It'll work. It'll be safe. And behind the motor, I think it'll look appropriate, particularly with this air cleaner. It's huge. Yeah, now that steering wheel isn't installed. It's just sitting on there for right now. In fact, it's not even centered. I'll deal with that later when we pulled the car back in. Yeah, it's not quite as centered as I wanted. And of course, we puked out some of the power steering fluid. You can see the big line of it there. But that'll be fine. So anyway, I think I'm wrapping up for tonight. ShopDog is exhausted. It was a lot of work for him. Well, I'm at the point where I need this motor in to keep the wiring, so that's what I'm doing. Done it a million times. It's usually a little easier with a second pair of hands, but my second pair of hands is in Wisconsin. And honestly, there's nothing else in here. This will drop down no problem at all. So anyway, I gotta get the hero photo of the engine going in. Well, I'm calling it a night. The engine's in, but the transmission is not. I have fought and fought, and it just isn't sliding in. I don't know what you can see in there. You know, these little adjuster tools, they only do so much. You know, they get you close. So, we will continue this another day. I'm a little exhausted. Bench pressing that tranny even on the stand, trying to get it to go. You don't always win. Okay, I didn't call it quits. I had to think, and rigged it up so that I could run the throwout bearing while I was doing this. It was not fun, but once we could release the pressure on the pressure plate a little bit, boom, she popped right in. So, tranny is in. And she went in pretty nice, you know, after all that. So, I'm not going to bother with the inspection plate yet. We'll do that when we do the oil change. But, yeah, the motor mounts are my next thing to tighten. But, look at that. Well, that's a shot you don't get very often. Okay, car's back down on the ground. Now I'm really wrapping it up for the night, and I think this is actually going to be the wrap up of this video, so I can get this one edited and up. We've still got to pull this fuel line here. You know, that's a separate project. I'm not going to fit the starter yet, but you know, I got to start planning on it. What else do we got? Well, you know, because I got to pull the oil filter to put that shield on first. So, you know, I'll clean out the power steering lines before those get hooked up, and then once those are hooked up, then the brake booster can go back in. Although I might just leave it out until I slide that header down. I'm not in a giant hurry for the headers, because this does give me a little room to get the wiring finished. As you can see, there's not a ton of wire left. This is almost a finished product. Gonna have to get a battery, because he's got this, and I know it's not that old, but these side post batteries are just not, they're not something I like to do. I've got ends that I like. They're popular with the stereo kids, you know, they like these little ends. They're inexpensive. They make doing upgrades real easy, but the biggest thing is, because all this fuel injection stuff likes to be connected at the battery, which is, of course, the largest capacitor in the system, it sure makes it easy to have your main feed, you know, for power and ground, to have the one for your EFI, and then maybe another feed for, you know, electric fans or something downstream. You know, I mean, it's nice to have those options. It makes it a lot tidier than just throwing another ring on the crimpy end, or just adding another terminal strip. So those are definitely my preference. Besides, that battery's been sitting there since November. But you can see it's starting to kind of pack up in here just a little bit. You know, an awful lot of what we've done is now not visible and won't be anymore. It's the way that goes. So, yeah, very, very nice to see this coming together. So now that the transmission is in, so, you know, the fact I'm trying to finish the interior, this comes all the way full circle there. Now I can put the shifter on, I can put the boot on, and get the roll control done, and then I can get that plate going and get that repaired. You know, although the plate's going to wait until after the wiring's all been tested. But, yeah, we're getting really close to wiring tests now. I'd like to have, you know, actually I don't even need a battery to do wiring tests. I can use my jump pack. But you can see everything fit in here real nice. The fact that most of what's here had already been in the engine bay is kind of nice, because, you know, then we knew it fit. But, you know, having the new accessory drive really cleans things up. It's always amazing how much more room there is before the cooling system is in. But It's not super tight on F-bodies, you know. There are some that are a whole lot worse. I do have to clean up a little bit of oil that we spilled on the dyno, but, you know, nothing crazy. The oil pressure sensor, you know, I didn't really have just a MPT to MPT, but I did have a T, so we just plugged that off. So that'll work just great. Pretty happy with its location. You know, these are the coil wires. I'll get those run nice and tidy. Those will go right to the coil from the MSD box. Yeah, this is really coming together now. And you can see, I don't like to do the throw everything in a big bundle of convoluted tubing and kind of hide it thing. You know, I kind of like that more organic look. You know, might not be for everybody, but I think we'll be able to hide most of that. And then that pink wire with the brown connector is just a bonus connection. That is what would have been the ignition for the coil. You know, it doesn't have a fuse on it, which is why we didn't use it. You know, that uses the main, in the old car, you know, the main fusible link. So since we're not running an HEI and we're not running an independent, you know, we're using the MSD box to fire the coil. That's not used, but something like that's always kind of handy. So I did run it out, and that's a great location for it. Those clips will get folded in once the wiring's all done, like the one over here is. But you know, it would be very difficult to put those fittings in now. That's why I put them in when I did. It's also why we followed the line that we did and didn't just make them a straight line. You'll notice, you know, behind the engine where things tend to want to fall. So there's not a lot left to do. Very, very happy that this is coming along. So the main feed for the engine will, you know, be the heavy cable down to the starter, and then from the starter lug through a fusible link, it'll go into the cab on this red wire, and then another one goes to the back of the alternator through another fusible link right here down to the alternator. So, or, you know, from the alternator down to the starter stud. So everybody uses that as a junction box for those. That's going to work out pretty nice. Well, I know it works out pretty nice. I've done it probably 10, 12 times. So you can see we did get the little riv nuts in there for his roll control. That's where it was mounted before, but now it's not sheet metal screws. Got the siren buried in there. That's kind of nice. So yeah, it's all coming together. So anyway, I think this is probably where we're going to wrap this up. You can see he's got the gray paint going here, you know, the primer. So yeah, at this point, I think we're going to call that a Bent69 video. Thanks for watching.